Page 231, please.
What chapter is it, miss?
29. Page 231.
You said 239.
231. You say you're trying to air it out. It's on the first page. I like the first sentence.
Okay.
Oh.
Just tell me the first few words.
Andy followed Bob.
Okay.
Middle of page 231. Andy followed Bob. The windows rattling like machine guns. The parking field summoning thoughts of home and the horses. The thoughts of letting loose feelings that were like the rings of a tree. A complex record of many, many things. And the only thing that went beyond them, he reckoned, was his body's instinctive hold on life. He followed Bob, not even bothering to acknowledge how inextricably they were caught up in what they had volunteered for. With your book. Can you please share? They were caught up in what they'd volunteered for. There was no choice but to go on. No legitimate exit unless it was offered by the war, because the war controlled everything. Underline that. Make a note of that. The war was a monster, a machine, a chain reaction, something in perpetual motion, and it was only the thing that could release him, either as one of the dead, wounded, captured, or insane men cast aside into the wake of a ship that could not stop. What could stop it? Andy thought gloomily. Both armies just kept on coming with more men. You couldn't kill everyone. You'd never get there. Men would just keep on coming, filling into the trenches to take their positions in the line, and they could keep on coming forever, and the war would keep on killing them forever, and they would keep on coming, killing and dying and filling in, because that was the way it was. Who was going to end it? Who could? Not the armies, not the generals. Bob waited at the doorway, and he could hear the sound of the train as it raced along. Bars up here. Bob opened the door, a blast of cold air and noise hitting him. Then, geez, we're moving along all right, he had to shout. You don't realise, do you? The train seemed to be flying. Through the cracks in the crossover, Andy could see the lines in ballast passing in a blur. The train was like something that was part of the whole thing. It was taking them back there as fast as it could bloody go. He felt like shooting the driver. Prefer to bloody walk, he shouted. What's the big hurry? Me date with Esther, mate. Bob flourished a pound note. Back me in, sport. I'm on a lucky streak. Okay. the quote back on page 231, because the war controlled everything all the way down into the wake of a ship that could not stop. What is the technique? This one's hard, there's a few there, but what is the technique? What is war? And a lot of you are focusing on the impact of war as a theme, so this is a really good one. What's the technique of that? What's war? It's a metaphor, yeah. And more than that, it's actually, and here's a new one for you, metonymy. It's like a metaphor, but it's where one part represents a whole thing. And I'll spell it on the board for you.
One aspect of something.
Hang on. It's a metonymy. Like a metaphor, but a metonymy. Okay. So the war is like personified here. It's given a metonym. It represents the whole thing. And so these little examples show the way that the impact reaches such a large scale. That's the effect. And so it says the war with a monster. See, again, that's personified. A machine, a chain reaction, something in perpetual motion. And it was the only thing that could release him. So war itself was the only thing that could release him from war. And so the only ways that he can be released from war were what? Death. What else? Injury. What else? Insanity, yes, or being captured. It doesn't seem like there's any winning. It doesn't seem like to Andy that there's any way out that's good. Right? Okay. And the train is again another motif for the acceleration of the way everything just gets just caught up in the wake of the war. The acceleration of death and the destruction that war creates is like the speed of the train that Andy is on, and that there's no way of stopping it, that he's just on it. So right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we've got 2 more lessons, but I want the winner by next lesson. So,
It's just people. No books.
Here we go.
Millions of people.
We've got a few things here. The ways to get out of war. What's the first one?
Death.
Right, so
I would like to genuinely, I swear to God, you're going to win. I wish.
Jenny, you're dead.
Wait, am I keep on? Please,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So, this person's insane.
Oh, this one.
This will be me. You're already dead.
Julian.
Julian.
Keep
going.
Leave it
You've
long.
only 2, yeah.
Yeah, leave the last 2.
Oh, well, now I know, but before I didn't.
Oh, small one with...
what was another one? Injury, that's right. Which led to death?
They blew off their hand.
Maya. I'm sorry. So who we got left?
Elliot.
And?
Elliot.
I think I win by
You
default.
put yourself in twice.
No, I didn't.
Didn't you put yours in?
No, I got it.
Oh, you
I
don't.
didn't. I didn't put it in the
Oh,
box.
you just picked
If you
it
make
That is your fault.
I'm just...
I was the last one to do it in the first place. It might be India.
No, that is.
No,
I
it could
know.
be Leo or Quillan, maybe.
No, our whole road died. Remember?
Elliot wins.
What is that?
I just didn't know. I think I win.
Who did that? I can't believe you won.
Yes.
I think I died.
I think it says lie.
Who did that?
Well, I won.
Oh my god.
No one?
Show me.
It's Jesse. I blame you. Was that you?
I'm pretty sure.
He died. What the fuck?
James started first.
It could be Leo or something.
Jesse got like
Leo. Yeah.
Boom.
Leo make is really big.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Leo Poo.
Leo. Right. So it's Leo.
Leo and Elliot. Oh, okay. So.
Damn it, I thought I won.
Wait.
And I've got that
We
hot
should all
chocolate
get
too.
I'll try.
I think you just like push your chair back.
Mr. the last one in third grade.
Yeah, no, I think, and also you need like someone who's like not involved and
Oh, yeah, hold it back.
get someone to draw it out.
Just stick close now.
Okay. So you guys, I hope that you've actually seen the point of that. And every time we've actually called someone out, I've given you a really good quote and technique to use for your speech.
Why didn't you tell us this before?
Yeah.
You would actually be listening.
I wasn't surprised the water.
Okay. So, do you want me to go through some of it? No, that'll take
get executed. That's what I was told.
The next part of the lesson is we want to read that article I gave you yesterday, so please take that out, and if you weren't here. It's not an article, sorry,
It said do
I'll come here. Jesse.
You already have it, the intro of these ones. Yeah.
How many words is
But if you own this copy of the book, you don't need it. It looks like that.
I don't think anyone
Why was 670 words?
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, yeah.
What? Wow. Right, that literally is the introduction and the first paragraph.
Elliot, it seems to be loud. Please start it off. It's now.
It's now 100 years since the beginning of the First World War. A war that must be remembered for the horrors it produced, and commemorated for the sacrifices and when I wrote Boys of Blood and Bone, I felt that the part Australian troops played in the war on the Western Front, 1618, was not nearly well known enough to many Australians. And I also wanted to write in the memory of my grandfather, A.J. Metzgerson, who served as a signaller with the 4th Machine Gun Battalion in France in World War
I was and still am fascinated by the campaign fought by Australian troops who travelled 20,000 kilometres to France, a country most would never have visited or even thought about if it wasn't for the war. This was the volunteer army consisting of approximately 330,000 young Australian men from all over the nation who were obliged to fight the Germans, pretty much for national pride and on behalf of England. For this service, they were paid 6 shillings a day and ran a 1 in 5 risk of getting killed.
Many of these men were away from Australia for up to 5 years, and many, about 60,000 in total, never made it home. On a percentage basis, Australian troops suffered suffered the worst losses of any army fighting in the Great War. Often this was because they were used as shock troops or held frontline positions for longer, or they were given the responsibility of leading Allied forces into
Wait,
battle.
gotta go.
Or they,
Me say mark me or wait, I've gotta go.
Let's go back to town, please.
Wait, Miss Jack, wait! Can I please go to the office because they've marked me away?
Wait. Let's see how. Let's do this all again. Sit down. I'm going to teach you some manners.
Hi, Miss.
Hi.
The reason
Not
why
that
I'm
far back.
No. We've got to go back a bit further because it's too routine.
Okay, excuse me, Miss.
Can I please
Can I please go to the office?
Can I please take a phone call outside the room?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you may. And then you come back in, and then you go, hey, Miss, can I go to the office?
Yeah, I just wanted my mom to explain. I wasn't gonna I just was like, okay, because
You can put it outside.
Okay, can I? And then you call them back or whatever. That's polite. Yes, and you go to the office.
Okay, sweet.
Put like put the rock or something.
Later.
Put rocks later.
Sorry, Miss.
Where are we at? Jesse. You finished? Thank you. I will read. I also drew on the love I had for my grandpa and the respect for the men who went, not always that willingly, but they went anyway, to fight. I wanted to tell something of their great stories because what they endured was so grueling it scarred nearly every one of them physically or mentally for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Owen.
I wanted in writing Boys Blood and Bones to bring one speck of reality back from the Western Front in an effort to tell readers of the horror, bravery, human noise, agony, life, death, victories, defeats, friendship, love, and unequal experiences of this modern war fought in such primitive ways by so many men and earnestly by many brave women.
Thank you. Lynn. I wanted
to write bombardments of hundreds of thousands shells that you might have had to endure for days and nights. As you stood in the trench, perhaps 100 meters from the enemy, your friends being blown to pieces around you, I wanted to write of the fear of what it might have been like to go over the top and advance towards the German lines through a blur of machine gun fire. I wanted to write about noise that drove men mad, million men lost in the 3-month battle.
yes. That one Right. Thank you. Yes.
Also known as the Battle of Yap. Ypres, my Ian Road. The look of land blasted back to the landscape of mud where men drowned in shells, craters, and tens of thousands of bodies were never recovered.
Thank you, James.
I wanted to write all this more because I wanted my grandpa to know how much I admired him and his mates for what they achieved and endured, and how they conducted themselves. The photographs of the Australians taken in the First World War are amazing, giving insight into the figures who fought and died. Not one of them left now to tell us what it was truly like. So I know in my writing I cannot ever match the experience of the Australians who did fight, but as a writer, writing for the right reason, that is to do my best to tell the truth, I hope I managed to present an aspect of their experiences on their behalf.
I also hope that I might have earned a nod of approval, and perhaps a few words like well sport. It wasn't quite that like, but at least you had a go. And boy, I did have a go at trying to get Boys of Blood and Bone as right as I could.
I travelled to the north of France where many of the Western Front battles were fought. I read just about every book written by an Australian about the Great War and the diggers. I read diaries of Australian ships, researched at War Memorial, listened to interviews, held old medals and badges, walked along avenues of honor, and tried to draw power from the memories of the faces in the photograph behind me. As I sat at my table working,
by using two narrative voices, those of Henry and Andy, I want to get across the idea that people have not changed so much, although Australia and the world has. I want to present a future of Australia and Australians in 1960, and something of what our country is now. Of course, it was a doomed exercise. You can walk where the diggers walked before, but they have gone on before you and cannot be called back. Yes, they've left for life what you need, what you right, but you'll never recreate what they went through. Thank you. But that is not to say you cannot tell a story about them. We can, to an extent, write for them and about them, and try to understand or explain their experiences. In their honour, in their memory, in the pursuit of truth, we can do this with a clear conscience.
I wrote this novel on the scale of the individual, because in a war that killed tens of millions of people, perhaps it is often through the eyes of one person that we can gain some understanding of the massive level of such a thing. I utilised diary entries because I found the reading of Australian soldiers' diaries a direct link to the minds and hearts of these men. They did love a short sentence and simple words. They did utilise understatement like no one else, and were almost invariably modest, honest men. Ela.
In my quest to bring as much authenticity to Boys of Blood and Bone as I could, I visited some of the many battlefields in the north of France where Australians as well as men from all over the world fought and died. But in the fields of France, even with old shell casings piled in the corners and war cemeteries in clear view, it felt to me that men had marched on. The war is indeed finished, but the memories linger. Now, you must imagine what happened if you seek to present part of their story.
There are beautiful Allied cemeteries to visit in France, yet one cemetery that I remember vividly was for German casualties. It was in a dell. I guess you could call it a shaded, silent, damp depression over the back of a hill. The metal crosses bent, the grass rank, the neglect obvious. This is understandable, of course, as it was an invader's graveyard in the homeland of the victor. But I would not be much of a writer or a human if I could not consider the lives of men who were also sent to fight on the orders of their government.
So it was also an aim to write of a tragedy on a mass scale. And this is why I guess Andy Lansell, my main character, died, because there was a 64% chance that if you fought in the First World War for Australia, you would get wounded or you would die. Of the approximately 60,000 Australian dead of this war, only 2 soldiers' bodies were brought home for burial, one now interred in the tomb of the unknown soldier at the War Memorial in Canberra. It was well worth visiting to stand in silence and reflect upon one of the most notable and perhaps saddest chapters of Australian history.
I was lucky enough and old enough to talk to men who did fight in this war. All have gone now, but to a man to the day, they still heard of the echoes of their service, endured dreams of the fighting, and held fiercely the memories of mates lost. My grandpa would not talk of the battles, but he did say, "Geez, you know, I had some great mates." And another old soldier I met, Eric, whose wartime job was to drive an ammunition wagon to the front line, said, "Well, yeah, there was the fighting, but I can tell you what, I had some beautiful horses."
It seems to me that these medics spent a lifetime trying to forget the war and a lifetime preserving the memories of them. This is why it was reasonable, I felt, for me to tell a little of their story. The title, Boys of Blood and Bone, I chose because this is exactly what they were. Boys made of blood and bone who threw themselves against the war machine created by the German Industrial Revolution, as did the German soldiers fling themselves against ours.
It was your body, just about there, against exploding shells that left a crater as big as a house, against machine guns firing 400 rounds a minute, against mustard gas, bayonets, hand grenades, a sea of barbed wire and rolling fire. And it was your blood, your life, the only life you had, that you put on the line for 6 shillings a day in a country you knew nothing about, for an England who saw you as nothing more than a cannon fodder for their war. There was nothing fair or reasonable about the episode. It was, in reality, a trip to the other side of the world to live or die in a hell on earth. Someone take over. I don't mind to. Myself?
So I wish to tell you as you struggle with my long book. I also urge you to read other books about the diggers, but I especially urge you to look at the photographs of the Australians who fought on the Western Front, because you will see a depth there in the writing that I can never quite match.
In writing intriguing matters, you must bring yourself to the table and write what you truly think. You must write and rewrite. You must listen to the silence and the sounds of the wind, look into the shadows and the night sky, stand on the ground and swim the seas, use your head, use your heart. And if you do all of this, your writing doesn't quite reach the highest level you hope, and your writing doesn't quite reach the highest level, the heights that you'd hoped for. No matter, you've done your best and that's all you can do, and you will do better next time.
At the end of the writing day, I have never reached the height I hoped for when I sat down in the morning. This is the nature of the thing, I guess, as the choice of words and ways to write them is infinite. Still, if you use your head and heart in equal measure, write clearly with the idea of being understood, and draw on stories you care about, your work will stand up, and the true stories of the Anzacs, remembered now in the centenary, are as important as they ever were. Kindest wishes, David Metzenden, April 2014. Okay, what does that introduction of the novel tell you about the story?
It's really long.
Yeah. It's a tribute. What's his purpose? Now let's think. Our question, the reason I've given you this is because it actually, and not often do we get this, but it actually tells you why he decided to write the book, what his purpose was. And your question that he engages audiences is going to be part of his purpose, to engage or interest audiences. So what is his aim? How does he try to do that? Yeah.
By creating a believable story of what it would be like to people that don't really get the picture of
Very good, yes. So about the believable story, the believable voice. What issues matter to people such as someone like Andy? Yep.
Family and protecting our country.
And friends. Yep. Yep. And friendship, mateship. Okay. And what's interesting that he said that the Australian soldier is gifted in the ability to make an understatement. So those diary entries, where they're not actually saying what really happened, they're just telling you what the weather was like or that there was some explosion, doesn't really give the impact of how that affected the person. So that's why Metzen then creates and engages us with that storyline. And what techniques does he use to engage us? Yeah.
When Andy is talking about it thoroughly and what actually happened that day.
Yep. So the description.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the story behind like how he has like a kid and everything like that.
Rocco, what do you think of what was just said? Because I don't think you were listening. No, because you were talking. A lot of the emotive language as well that he uses. So the fact that we really feel for the characters, especially that one we read just before about the war and the monster of war, it makes you feel for the character, doesn't it? It starts with E, what word? Gives you empathy. Yeah. And that's through that first person narration. Even though, like, it is that fly on the wall third person narration helps you to see how Andy is feeling. Okay, you've got some work to do. The people whose names are on the board have not handed their coursework essay in. So that means that everybody else should be prepared to come and sit in the chair of death, which we'll be doing for the rest of this week, which means you sit here with me and you go through your coursework essay and we have a look at it. I've marked them all other than the ones that were sent this morning. So please take out your coursework essay, take out your assessment question, make sure you've got the excerpt in front of you, and start writing your speech essay. What I want you to do is write it as an essay, Julian. And then, later in the week, I'm going to tell you about how to sort of adapt it from an essay to a speech. The expectation is that you have essay structure, but that you communicate it in the style of a speech. So you still have an introduction, you still have a speech, you still have sexy paragraphs, all of that is still the same, but that you might use a rhetorical question and that you you speak in an engaging way. Pause, all of that sort of stuff, right? Any questions? So Julian, what are we doing? Recap, what are we starting on now?
Starting off with the coursework essay.
No, you've done that.
No, I meant like you're going to send us to the...
Yeah, that's right. And while people are doing that, you are working on your assessment task. The question is on the board. Take out your excerpt because a lot of you didn't refer to the excerpt enough in your coursework. No, you didn't have to. So you know, the ideal would be... I know, but yeah, that's right. But I need it ASAP.
What have you got? For deals, he talks to assessment questions.
I was doing intro class. What I was
I gave you the opportunity, really. I want to stay with her now.
Rocco, your essay question wasn't in on the week. And Chanel, because you put it in big font, so I mean, I think it's going to be a whole page. Julian, yours is
Just one.
Okay, you can listen to music, but you can't talk, please, so I'd like you to work quietly. Thank you.
He came to I've got a Steve.
If in your speech, you can write it out like how you would say it.
Two essays. I'll draft them 30 in one.
And then, like, if you want, like, throughout your face got water. Face upstairs first, please. Bring it. Okay. Rob, have you got work to do?
Yes.
Jesse, have you got work to do?
I'm sorry.
That you no, too late.
You can't read the book after you've done the book.
Right. Lenny.
When's the excursion?
Tomorrow.
At what time?
7:30.
Okay. School. I'm just putting it in my calendar.
Yeah. Here tomorrow at 7:30.
7:30. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to hear anyone talking. You can listen to music, but you cannot talk. So, off your phone into your work, right? Hank, it's not like I was waiting for you or anything, so get. Okay. So, And then finish with, like, so you've got the middle and you just need one of the handles. Okay, yeah, so that's your end of the day, like, is your calculation. And it's like, how you like to anyway. There's no point in it just to have it on the top of your text.
Oh yeah, no. I like, I'm aware of the line side.
Doing okay.
What I'm trying to get you to do is just and then the form. So at the start, you get down to you can't see what the end is like. The other thing is that this might be the first time you've seen that
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no.
Yeah.
Julian, how you doing?
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah? You got a intro for your second time?
Sort of.
Okay.
Maddie.
Yeah. So you got the character scenes in there?
Yeah.
Oh. Do you have your... Have you started your... that or did you start writing?
Sort of like an essay, but you know. Yeah.
What is that?
You've got some good poems and you've got techniques. At the end, back to next. That's nice. Relationships. It'd be nice if that were related to the but it's extra. Yeah, or we can go there. Let's even only have that technique. Yeah. Right. So if we've done that one, and then again, go back to the next. pretty big challenge, right?
Yeah, sure.
Two characters in the story, though.
I know, but I'll change it.
Someone put it in film here.
Where does he say he's No, like,
You move.
it's more like it is like.
Keep moving.
One paragraph, then a little one. That's your introduction.
A branch. Straight off the press.
Do you actually do this?
Yeah.
I hate this shit. I always take them out. So this OG, you know,
like, so just say that people things. That's all stuff, right? Later. But Julian, you're next, so get ready. Okay.
You are currently viewed as being automatically considered as
Oh, to show you what it is.
money and all that. Continue without
I'll figure it out. And I'll let you show you by comparing them.
You ruined
But I just can't write it down.
The cheapest tickets are shipping now.
Okay, sure. That's why you hold up that table
I know that there's other legs, but I'm not going to go.
And like, put this and say, you know, I'm going to pay in the one day, in the one day,
It's funny.
I said it was like $130 each. And then we're looking at airfare we're going to get on a plane straight off. I'm not paying like $180
Now, hey. You've got to spend some time thinking about your more things that you should know.
You know what, I think what we do already it's free. Yeah, the cost it doesn't you might have one we have to deal with your abusive stepfather.
When you make sure you spend time with them.
Wait till after separation.
And then over your neck.
Located 3,600 of 4,200. 84%. You would help. Why do you help?
Oh, okay.
What do you have next?
Rocco, you need to have things on your desk to make it look like you're working. Too much chat. Lenny.
That's so easy to change.
Jackson.
I'm going to speak.
Okay, great. Do you have those?
If you work in fast,
What's your language, please?
Oh my god, he does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Okay. Miss, would you describe Andy? Miss, would you describe Andy as having a sense of pride? Totally. And ambition or no?
Not so much ambition as duty.
Pride and duty. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Jesse. Where's the nearest post office?
Nearest to here or nearest to your house?
Nearest here.
I don't know. Look it up.
Yeah, go for it.
Alright.
Yeah, but which side? Past.
You know how you go up Leafront Road up there?
Yeah, and that.
Turn left and just keep going. It's on the left.
Close to Broadway or a bit further?
Relatively. I'll show you. We're there with the blue thing.
Yeah.
The post office is there. So you go up to Blue Point Road and then ride left.
Or I can take the easy way here.
Yeah, so go up Bridge and then turn left and you don't have to go far. Just one block.
Did you say that Henry's a bit of a nasty?
I'm gonna take that route instead. It sounds easier. You going that way too, or not this one?
It's Monday today, isn't it? I'll ride you up. I'll ride with you up.
Yeah, cool. Bridge Road isn't as steep as the other one, that's for sure.
It's actually both easy to come by. Are you sure you got it?
Yeah.
You gonna undo it?
Oh, this one's right.
I'll do it.
Solomon, you can't let them on fire. Yeah, Solomon.
Okay, I'm coming around to check what you've worked on this list.
Oi!
Me? I mean,
Do you have that sheet that has all the quotes and techniques on it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, let me down. Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to
No.
Bro, there's still not in there. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to jail.
I mean, Solomon, last night, don't let him do it.
Break it. What's the fuck, Solomon? Anyway,
Take that.
You failed, Rocco.
do I just write it down for you? Yeah, I'll add to it later, but I just wanted to make sure I'm like, you are on the right track.
3.5 to 4
Ramen, can you stay offline, please? I've spoken to Eli, I've spoken to Jackson, I've spoken to Sam. I should be back. So, guys,
Is that the studio? Yeah, that's all.